In May 2025, hundreds of people logged into a video call. They worked for one of Europe's most celebrated AI startups, a company Microsoft had backed, a company valued at roughly $1.5 billion. The call lasted half an hour. By the end of it, almost all of them had lost their jobs. One former manager later put it simply, they lost everything in about 30 minutes. Some heard the news while still on calls with customers. Now, if you've seen this story online, you already think you know what happened. The headlines said it was the great AI hoax, a fake artificial intelligence. 700 humans in India secretly pretending to be a robot. It's a great story. It's also wrong. The truth is stranger, and it's worse. This is the rise and fall of Builder.ai. On paper, it was a dream, a startup that promised to make building software as easy as ordering a pizza. An AI assistant named Natasha that would do the work of an entire engineering team. Investors believed it. Microsoft believed it. A sovereign wealth fund poured in $250 million. And then it all came apart. But to understand why, you have to separate three things that got tangled together: what Builder.ai sold, what it actually was, and where the money really went. Because the viral fake AI story isn't the scandal. It's the smokescreen. The real story is about numbers that didn't add up, and a company that may have invented its own success. Builder.ai started back in 2016 under a different name, Engineer.ai. Its founder was H.N. Dev Dugal, a charismatic entrepreneur who gave himself an unusual job title, Chief Wizard. The pitch was magic, basically. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to hire developers. You just describe the app you want, and Natasha, the company's AI, assembles it for you. 6 times faster than traditional development, up to 70% cheaper. And the money followed the magic. Over the years, the company raised somewhere around $450 million. The backers were a who's who of global tech: Microsoft, the Qatar Investment Authority, Qatar's sovereign wealth fund, SoftBank's startup arm, the International Finance Corporation. In 2023, a funding round led by Qatar pushed the company past a $1 billion valuation, unicorn status. Microsoft announced plans to integrate the product with its cloud. One magazine even ranked Builder.ai among the most innovative AI companies in the world. It looked, for a moment, like the future. So here's where we kill the myth. The viral version says Builder.ai was a con, that there was no AI at all, just 700 people in India typing out code by hand while pretending to be a machine. That's not what happened. Engineers who actually worked there have pushed back on it. Reporting that investigated the claim traced it back to an anonymous social media post with no real sourcing. And then it spread because it was a perfect story. The reality is more boring and more important. Natasha was a real system. It used large language models, tools like GPT and Claude, to scaffold projects and guide the build. The internal AI team was small, but it existed and it did something. The 700 humans part? Builder.ai, like a huge number of software companies, used outside contractors. Hundreds of developers hired through outsourcing firms in India and elsewhere did real engineering work supported by the AI, not impersonating it. So no, the AI wasn't fake. The problem was that the company built a billion-dollar brand on the promise of automation, while quietly leaning on a very human, very expensive workforce underneath. That's a pattern with a name now. People call it AI washing, wrapping ordinary work in an artificial intelligence story to raise extraordinary money. And that story raised a lot of money, which brings us to the part that actually broke the company. In 2024, Builder.ai told the world it was generating around $220 million in revenue. The real number, according to later reporting, was closer to $55 million. That's not a rounding error. That's revenue inflated by roughly 300%. And the 2023 figures were reportedly slashed in the same way, from about $180 million down to 45. How does a number get that wrong? One alleged answer involves a second company, an Indian firm called Innovation. According to reporting, between 2021 and 2024, the two companies allegedly engaged in something called round-tripping, billing each other for services in similar amounts in a way that can make a company's sales look bigger than they really are. Now, this is an allegation, and it's contested. Verse has firmly denied any wrongdoing. calling the claims baseless and false. The company has pointed out that the amounts each side paid weren't equal, that it paid Builder.ai more than it received back, and says its own audit found its transactions in order. We're laying out what's been reported, not delivering a verdict. But here's the part that's harder to wave away: the governance. For much of its biggest fundraising period, the company reportedly had no chief financial officer. A former employee who sued the company described it, in his words, as smoke and mirrors. $1 billion valuation, hundreds of millions raised, and, allegedly, nobody minding the books. The end came fast. In early 2025, the founder stepped aside, replaced by a new chief executive. In March, the company laid off hundreds, and then a lender stepped in. Back in 2023, a firm called Viola Credit had loaned Builder.ai around $50 million. As the company's true finances came into view, Viola moved to protect itself and reportedly swept about $37 million out of Builder.ai's accounts. That left roughly $5 million. For a company burning through cash with hundreds of employees, $5 million is nothing. Couldn't make payroll. And on May 20th, 2025, Builder.ai declared insolvency across the UK, India, and the United States. That's the 30-minute call. That's the gray webcam tiles. More than 500 people lost their jobs. Microsoft was reportedly owed tens of millions in unpaid cloud bills. Amazon even more. And the Qatar Investment Authority, the fund that led that $250 million round, is reported to have lost essentially all of it. The investigations didn't stop at bankruptcy. Federal prosecutors in New York are now seeking the company's financial and customer records. Here's the thing. If Builder.ai were one bad apple, this would just be a fraud story. It isn't. Look at where the money is going right now. In 2025, for the first time ever, AI startups pulled in more than half of all venture capital in the world, over $190 billion, according to PitchBook. More than every other industry combined. But look closer and the picture gets stranger. Most of that money isn't spread across the field. It's piling up at the very top. Of the most funded private AI companies, two of them, OpenAI and Anthropic, reportedly hold around 80 cents of every dollar the whole group has raised. This is what a bubble looks like from the inside. Enormous valuations. A story so compelling that nobody wants to check the math. Capital flooding toward the promise of intelligence, faster than anyone can prove the returns. Builder.ai didn't invent that environment. It just took it to its logical extreme and got caught first. The wildest part of the Builder.ai story isn't the myth about 700 humans. It's that the real fraud was hiding in plain sight in the accounting the entire time, and an entire ecosystem of investors, partners, and headlines looked right past it. Because the AI story was just too good to interrupt. Builder.ai was early. It was loud, and it collapsed before most people were even paying attention. But it won't be the last. Somewhere out there, right now, is another company with a magical demo, $1 billion valuation, and numbers nobody is checking. The only question is which one falls next.